Hi everyone, Sophie here. I'm going to do one of my blog readings here. Hopefully I'll have this one right because the last one, the microphone didn't work. Um, so, so what I'm going to do is read the blog entry and provide some commentary. Not that anyone really cares, but may as well give you something different. Anyway, this entry is from Wednesday, September 7th, 2016. So it's a few months old. And it's called If They Knew When. Then. If they knew then. I can read. Anyway, if they knew then. Humid late summer nights always make me think back to a short space of my life. In the summer of 1983, I was preparing for my senior year of high school. I gave up cross dressing in early August of that year, burning all of my female clothes. To date, that's the only purge I've ever had, by the way. A few days later, Saber, the family dog, died. I spiraled into a deep depression, my first encounter with the darkness. At the time, I was working at Spring City Burger King. That summer was quite an experience for me there. You see, that spring, several of the most popular guys at my school were hired there. I helped train them, and as I had over a year's experience. Guys like Kurt, Jim, Steve, and Scott. Of course, having the popular guys working at BK meant that the popular girls stopped by the store as well. I knew all of these people, as my high school class was only 275 students. But something changed. They talked to me. The popular guys spoke to me as an equal, as a coworker, as a friend. That was completely a new experience for me, for especially let's try that again. That was a completely new experience for someone used to being invisible to everyone. And it wasn't just that. They included me. For example, you see on the other side of Royersford, a couple miles from the store, Royersford is right next to Spring City, was a housing development called Mingo, where many of my classmates lived. On hot, humid nights, we would park at the edge of the development on Cochise Lane and walk down, then up a dark street to the Nine Oaks Swim Club, diving into the bushes if a car came along. The swim club was membership only and was surrounded by a high chain link fence. In my mind, it was something only rich folks could afford. However, the fence was shorter in the back, near what I guess was a pump house. There it was easily scaled, and that's what we did. We'd skirt around some trees, through a parking lot to the fence, and we followed the fence back to the back of the thing. We jumped the fence, strip down to our underwear, and go for a swim. I actually have a map of this on the blog. We recovered in Greece from work, and swimming in the pool washed us off. Now, I found out months later that the grease clogged the pool filters. Oops. Now, usually we would encounter other people that are already there, classmates and such. However, many times we encountered popular girls from the school, usually from the grade below us. On those nights, there was often skinny dipping. It was my first time seeing girls naked in person. My dysphoria was still strong, especially since I just had stopped dressing. Seeing naked girls aroused desire in me, of course. I mean, I was a teenager. But it aroused a different kind of desire. Envy. I so wanted to be those girls, young and beautiful. And yes, the popular guys would hook up. I never saw them have sex there, but I was sure it happened those nights, after we all went our separate ways. If a car came down the road, we'd freeze. If it slowed down and turned into the parking lot, we'd jump out of the pool, over the fence, and into the trees behind the pool, in case it was a cop. Never mind that we have left our shorts and everything lying there or whatever, and anyway. We're 17, yeah. I heard one night late that summer, a group of teens were caught there. They were arrested for trespassing and for possession of marijuana. Ooh. We didn't go every night, only on nights that it was sultry and there was at least 3 of us closing. And even then, some nights they had other plans. To them, it was just another fun activity. But for me, I lived for those nights. As the summer bled into fall, those nights came to an end. Several of the popular guys found jobs at a yoga place, which I think was TCBY, at the King of Prussia Mall. There, they could meet more people. However, when we went back to school, another strange thing happened. Those guys, they kept talking to me. I wasn't shunned. I was no longer included like I was because we were no longer coworkers, but they would talk to me in the halls and stuff. I never forgot that, and I always thought that was very kind of them. To this very day, I think so. A couple weeks after school started, I had an emotional meltdown. I was fired from Burger King. I was devastated. The job had become my social life as well as my source of income. About a week later, I was told by former coworkers that if I went to work and apologized for my behavior, I'd yelled at a manager, then they would consider taking me back. I did so, and I was rehired. I remember shedding tears of joy. Seriously. I also remember that I felt like an idiot crying in front of people. Here I am, a guy crying, Well, as far as I know. Anyway, so what's the point? What if my classmates knew the truth about me back then? Most of them know by now, especially after the reunion back in 2014. But what if they knew back in the early 80s? I was messaging with one of my classmates the other day. She was one of the popular girls, gorgeous, etc. She was also extremely nice when we spoke, which wasn't often. I mean, she was in different circles and all after all, she was popular. It wasn't. Anyway, so we're messaging a week or so back, and she sent me the following. I recall at our reunion that many people gravitated to you. You just have that it factor. I sent back, as for gravitation, you are correct, but not due to an it factor. You may recall that I was an outcast back in the day. No, they gravitated to me because I was the freak show. Still, it was nice for her to think about it. I am happy that so many people from my school have matured and were very pleasant to me at the reunion. But we're all in our late 40s and early 50s now. Back when we were teens? A quick history lesson. 1980 to 84 were the beginning of the Reagan years, with all that implies. Conspicuous consumption. Might makes right. Liberals are traitors. Reagan's press secretary, Larry Speakes, on October 15, 1982, made fun of AIDS, and Reagan remained silent about it for most of his terms. The all-American male at that time was Sylvester Stallone. First as Rocky, then as Rambo. Muscle was in. Even Bruce Springsteen bulked up. The all-American woman was Brooke Shields. Or was it Molly Ringwald? Well, you get the idea. It was far from a safe time for LGBT people, especially for trans. My school was very rural and conservative back then. If someone was even suspected as being gay, there were beatings. I found out later that there were a couple people in my class who came out. I think only one of them lives in the area. The other moved to California. But in any case. So if they had known I was trans, I would have been ostracized at the very least. Tormented for sure. I would have been targeted for violence as well. How do I know all this? Simple. I'm not the only trans person from my time. There was another who transitioned in 1989, and believe me, I heard what everyone had to say about her. Loud and clear. And to my eternal shame, I was a coward. I didn't stand up for her as I should have. What's the point of looking back like this? Well, it's history, my history. I'm trying to learn who and what I am or was so I can continue to grow. I'm a very different person from that scared kid in high school. I've realized some dreams and watched others wither and die. But as horrible as my life can be, and it is, I am my true self, and that is something. That's the end of the blog entry. Springford has since become a very, very large school. In 1985, Route 422 opened up, which gave people direct access to Philadelphia and to King of Prussia and all the businesses that had opened there. So we became a bedroom community. All the farmland that used to be there are now housing developments and McMansions. Springford, when I graduated, had 275 people to a class. That was the largest it had ever been at that time. Now they graduate 800 to 1,000 without blinking. Yes, it's that big now. I hope it's evolved. I like to think that it has. I mean, times change after all. Back then, we were Hicks, flat out. We were growing up in small towns or out in the farm, and you know, I kept hearing about the parties in the cornfield. People go out, and there'd be a keg in the middle of the cornfield, and they go out and they'd have some good times. I was never invited to any of those, but I heard about them, that's for sure. Especially from those guys, when they come into work from Burger King hungover. I often wonder what happened to a lot of those guys. I saw a couple of them at previous reunions, but as with everything, I lost touch. When I closed down my guy Facebook, I lost touch with everyone pretty much. Not many people followed me over to my current Facebook, but so there it is. That's the reading, and I hope you enjoyed it. This is Sophie Lynn saying be well and have a good day. Bye.